Okay, we're into the donations. We'll let those speakers speak first. The first one is Stephanie Bowen, Executive Director of Brunswick Family Assistance.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you guys so much for having me again. It's so strange. I was really hoping to be there in person. It's been so long, but we'll just have to deal with Zoom, I guess. I am here this evening to ask for a donation toward direct assistance to help people in the 28451 zip code with rental utility and food assistance. As you guys know, we have had an office in the Leland area for a little over 2 years now. We are seeing a lot of clients come into that office needing help, and those are people who are living at or below 130% of the federal poverty level. We do verify that through our client database each time a client visits our office right now, which is all over the phone. We are verifying income and expense information. That has been a little bit of a challenge doing things over the phone, but thankfully fax machines and emails help with that. So their income and expense information is tracked and their services are tracked so that we avoid duplication of services as much as possible. With COVID, we obviously saw a big influx in need for things like rent and utilities, especially back when it first hit. We are still seeing that. And so with that, we've developed a monthly assistance program for people whose income has been impacted by COVID. So once we verify with their supervisor or through documentation that their income has been impacted, we have been able to catch them up one time and then provide monthly assistance with a portion of those bills so that they don't get behind again while they're still trying to find employment or get back on their feet. So going into 2021, obviously there is still some uncertainty around what's going to happen and what the need's going to be, but we anticipate that at least for the next few months, we're going to continue to see that increase in need, and then hopefully things will start to level back out. But even then, obviously BFA's been around for a long time, and we know that there's no lack of need in our community. And so we're just trying to be here to fill that gap, and we're hoping that you will continue to support us in those efforts.
Okay, we thank you for that. I'm a big supporter of the Brunswick Family Assistance. Y'all do a lot of great work in our county, and I know a lot of people that benefit from that. Any questions from the commissioners? I think what we'll do, we'll go through, Stephen, we'll probably go through all the people that want the donations, and then we'll talk to the board to see if we make a decision now or maybe a little bit later date before we actually vote on it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Athena has my contact information.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
So number 2 is, if I get this right, is it Carmen, Kamen, Brown, Coordinator for Community and Donor Relations at Brunswick Community College.
So we're going to have Elizabeth Lawson speak instead of me. She let us know.
Okay, so we don't have her on.
Hey there, Alan, how are you?
Come on up.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm sorry I murdered your name.
It's not my name, but I won't tell Kim.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Elizabeth Watson, Executive Director of the Foundation. How are you all this evening?
Good, fine.
Good, good. So I'm here representing Brunswick Community College and the Foundation, and I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to present in front of you and to share our request for a grant. We have been so blessed to have support from Belville in the past, and this grant request would support scholarships for students in continuing education and workforce development programs, specifically trade programs. I know some of you have toured Brunswick Community College's Leland Center, which is just up the road here, and that center supports in that place electrical training as well as machine technology, and some of the students that we supported in the past have benefited from those programs. And so the bulk of our request is, as Stephanie shared, and as everyone knows, it's been a difficult time, and people who were either unemployed or underemployed prior to this year have found a real great need to boost their skills in order to have employment that will provide family sustaining wages. And so we have programs at BCC that are short term and lead to work. They teach us credentials and certifications that will provide people with skills they need to become employees and then become productive, contributing members of our communities more so. And so something that is relatively new that we're excited about, and this was mentioned in the request, is that being a part of the NC3, is the National Coalition for Certifications, National Coalition Certification. NC3 allows us to provide certifications throughout someone's course, so they may be enrolled in a 10 or 12-week course, and they are able to earn credentials along the way, which is really exciting and important for the students because just a few weeks in the course, they may be able to get a certification that will be a third-party credential they can take with them. And that's something that boosts their confidence and increases retention and the ability for our students to complete the program. So these are for scholarships, which are students, and I do appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
But how many people do you have in that program a year?
So in continuing education, there are upwards of 3,000 people that are enrolled through programs. In this past year, grant money from the town of Belville has helped approximately 11 students. Those courses cost around $180 plus supplies. So they can range from $180. Some courses are more expensive depending on the equipment needed, but that's the average price per course per student.
Does the college, do y'all track any of the people that once they leave the program, can go into either business or they're working at a job? Y'all track any of those at all?
It would usually be self-identified. Someone might come back and say, I benefited from this program. We do find that students, particularly in programs like electrician, this you were awarded a student of scholarship this past year who is in electrical too. So that means they completed one, they're coming back for more. So we do see repeat students like that even after they leave the program.
Any questions from the commission? Thank you so much for the presentation. I think 1 and 2, I think it's the only presenter we have request for donations. We did a contract, so we need to take a vote tonight today.
No, sir.
We're not all the way into our budget process yet. That's what I'm saying that. What we'll do, the minute we get that, we'll notify you. Do take a vote.
Okay.
Discuss with everything. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Programs above our strong support. Think benefits the local area. Like put back at the job market.
Absolutely. Thank you
So
so much.
Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list, of course, it's been under contracts, be Barry Johnson. The Johnson Environmental Disaster Consulting Services. We know whatever disaster we had here in the town, they did an outstanding job. Good work. Do we have Barry online?
I'm here, Mayor. I apologize. Do you hear me?
Barry,
I'm here, sir.
okay, the floor is yours, sir. We're just waiting, and appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us.
Sir, I'm here just to request to continue on as servicing you guys with the latest request to in my proposal to continue operating for you guys and setting up contracts for the upcoming year.
Well, Barry, I don't think any of us can probably say that you personally, as well as the organization, have been great to work with. Got a lot of good comments out of the citizens of our town, and the issues we've had, hurricanes, tornadoes. Always comes up, I've heard nothing negative, if I preach the time and manner that everybody gets on board. Appreciate
Thank-
it. Any comments? Commissioner? Very, we appreciate you being online, and like you say, I think we really don't need much, but we know what kind of service you put out, produce. Great for the town, so this just the first process, we take a vote on all these,
My pleasure, sir. Whatever I can do.
thank you, Barry.
Good day.
Thank you. So nice to you. Not feeling well.
Okay, we'll move on to number 4. Nathan Harrington. Founded on Smart Moves Consult. Okay. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. The floor is yours.
Good deal. I would like to be able to do a screen share, but it looks like I need permission to do that. If somebody can click that button for me, that'd be great.
Yeah, we're trying to get there.
Oh, here we go. All righty, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. So what I did was I pulled together just a quick presentation to outline some projected matching funds for some upcoming grant opportunities, and then some smart move services that would go along with those funding opportunities and the Vision 2030 plan as well. So I'm sure you guys have heard that we have been working on the Vision 2030 plan. We had the public input meetings last week, as you guys know. And what I am thinking as far as the Vision 2030 plan and how we can hopefully move forward with actually constructing particularly the Brunswick Riverwalk Park would be that if we can get the ownership of the land that NCDOT owns in the wetlands, the area that's in purple. So we're not talking all the way to the future downtown area, just that area in purple. If we can get ownership of that land, and if we can adopt the Vision 2030 master plan by August, the end of August, then that will allow us several grant opportunities. And from what I'm seeing, based on where I understand that wetlands area that NCDOT owns, we're looking at the opportunity to go ahead and expand the Riverwalk by about a third of a mile. And so we could apply to the Recreational Trails Program. This is out of the North Carolina Division of Parks and Recreation. There is a preliminary environmental review. It does not have to be completed, but we just need to have it started in June. There's a pre-application in July of 2021, and they just want to see that you're on the right track and it is an eligible project. And that final application is due September 24th of this year. In the past, the maximum award has actually been a little bit more, but this year the maximum award is $100,000, and the minimum match that would go with that is 25%. So that would be if the total project cost, or no, I'm sorry, the 25% would be an additional $25,000. So you take 25% of the total award. And from what I can see, you know, this funding opportunity would be absolutely ideal for extending the Brunswick Riverwalk to the north. So that is one funding opportunity that I saw here. And then this is some additional information. And then the next funding opportunity is the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. If you guys remember, that was also the same source of funds that paid for what we can call phase 1 of the Brunswick Riverwalk. We do not know for sure, but that will probably be a maximum $500,000 award, but you do have to match dollar for dollar. So if you have a $1 million project, you can request 500,000 and then you'd have to match 500,000. However, that application will be due next spring, and that's whatever you guys would like to apply for, which we need to get a solid cost estimate for this anyway. Those funds, since the application is due in spring, they probably won't announce the recipients of those funds until summer of 2022. So those matching funds could technically go into next year's budget. I will say that both with the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and the Recreational Trails program, one thing that they like to see in the budgets is that there is a line item specifically called out for those funding sources. So my suggestion would be is if you guys do decide to set aside some funds for either of these grants, the way that you spell it out in the budget would be, matching funds for Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and matching funds for Recreational Trails Program. They like to see that, this thought has been put in ahead of time, and that you guys have adopted your budget and you're very dedicated to, putting these funds towards those matching funds. And then as far as the completion of the Vision 2030 plan, depending on when we get to do the next round of public meetings, I'm not sure if that would be a June or a July, but looking at the timeline there, I hope there would be maybe 100 hours of work after July 1st of 2021. And then the smart moves rate for that would be about $10,000. So then the FY 2022 budget recommendations, if you set aside $25,000 match for construction with the Recreational Trails Program, as far as grant writing services, if you would like Smart Moves to do that, based on the complexity of those applications, we're looking at about another $7,000. And then the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, you don't need to set aside the funds in this year's budget, but the grant writing services for that would be approximately $8,000. So if you're looking at the total for the 2 grant submissions and the matching funds and the completion of the Vision 2030 plan, you're looking at about $50,000 there. I will say that does not include the $500,000 earmarked for the Partif grant or any grant management services. And I know, Athena and I have, collaborated on several other projects. So, there's other things she likes to loop me in for, but those are the, the overall funding recommendations based on the 2 grant funding sources, grant writing services, and completing the Vision 2030 plan. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? Adrian, we appreciate that presentation, and we look forward to working with you a lot more in the future and get this whole plan in action. So thank you so much, Adrian.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving on to 5, if Robin Spinks, is she online?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Robin, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So, I'm sorry. Did somebody else have something to say?
Go ahead, Robin.
Okay, thank you. This past year, as you know, we finished the economic impact analysis of the downtown project. And it included basic data research about the opportunity and a concept plan to show physically what it would look like, and then a dollar impact analysis to what it would cost in terms of what the construction costs and the return back to the town and other entities. So as a result of that, I have just been sort of as required to follow up with that report through the Vision 2030 plan in cooperation with Adrian and Smart Moves. And I have just proposed to continue on with tasks as you require to help you make this downtown project happen. So I have suggested in my proposal that the first thing that needs to be done after the Vision 2030 plan is approved is to work with the landowners, gather whatever data that we need to try to make that site available to, and when I say site, I mean all of the parcels, make those available to a company that may want to do the development. And so in addition to that, supporting any of the marketing efforts that the town has to potential developers, which might be, marketing materials or lists of potential developers, answering questions from them about the situation, coordinating with the various partners like the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Chamber, any other steering and stakeholder committee meetings that are required along those lines. And then sort of the details of development, such as any infrastructure issues that come up, sort of supporting coordination with specific infrastructure providers and engineers who may need to come on board to answer questions. Perhaps working with specialists. And I've provided proposals from 2 specialists that I think would be useful. One is a company called Horvath that does hotel feasibility studies. The other one is a company called Retail Strategies that is a significant specialist in marketing, creating the data sort of up a level from the data that we gave you, and matching that to the appropriate retailers for the downtown area. And then just any other coordination with Smart Moves on the Riverwalk expansion. So that's kind of an overview of the type of work that I have been and am very willing to do. And this would certainly be on an hourly basis as required by you. So I'm happy to give you details of the retail strategies in Horvath if you need them, or answer any other questions that you might have of me. Thank you. And I really appreciate the work that you've provided so far. It's been an awful lot of fun to look at the opportunities and the potential and just really imagine what might happen. Anytime I drive over that bridge now, I look over there and smile about what certainly is possible.
Thank you so much, Robin. We appreciate your partnership with us and working to make this come to fruition. We've got a lot of high expectations for our area, but we need the expertise you have, Adrian has, and some of the other people to make these things happen. So we appreciate you partnering with us. Any questions from the commissioners? Ron, looks like everybody's happy. So I want to thank you so much for being here this afternoon and talking with us. We'll definitely be talking to you a little bit later on.
Right. And if you have any other questions and, as you go along and have the discussion, I'm here if you need to give me a quick call to answer them. So thank you again for the opportunity and have fun with your budget process.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, the next will be our engineer, Jeff. Is Jeff online?
I'm here.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, so you should have our proposed contract for this upcoming year. It's the same contract form that we've sent the last nearing a decade. It has a fee that shall not exceed $55,000. That's the same number that we've had in there for many years as well. So just looking to continue our engineering services like we've done nearing a decade.
Well, Jeff, as you know, you're part of town now. Been here so long, we appreciate what you do. I enjoy working with you. Give us good insight, taking care of the town. And I look forward to getting this budget process over. And thank you for what you've done for the town, Jeff.
Thank you.
Any comments from the commissioners?
Jeff, do you want to go over the drainage study?
Sure.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So do you guys also have that proposal?
Yes.
We can look at, okay. So this is a proposal to do a drainage study for 3 subdivisions, namely River Ridge, Wood Ridge, and Old Town. Those have historically been the 3 subdivisions that have had the most troubles with stormwater runoff. A major part of it is doing data collection and mapping. In other words, showing all of the ditches and stormwater pipes, cataloging all that stuff, showing stormwater pipe sizes, materials, even age where it couldn't be determined. And we would provide hard copy mapping of all that data that we pull together, as well as digital mapping. The digital mapping will, at least for the moment, is intended to probably be connected to Google Maps and Google Earth, to where the town could pull up those different pieces of infrastructure. Say the town got a call about a stormwater pipe that was having issues. Athena would be able to pull that up on Google Maps and determine exactly what stormwater pipe it is, what size it is, what the material is, how old we think it is, to get the mind better wrapped around what the actual issue is. So it's sort of the start of a much more long-term goal of the town having a lot of these types of infrastructure pieces in some sort of mapping program, to where the town can easily pull it up and not have to spend a bunch of time in the investigative stage and trying to figure out exactly what infrastructure is being talked about. We're also going to incorporate information related to the DEQ stormwater permits. Each of those subdivisions is under a separate stormwater permit. So that's one of the main pieces, is getting all that data collected and mapped. And then once we would have all that pulled together, we would actually put together a drainage study document that would summarize all that data collected and describe our observations and provide recommendations for potential improvements in those areas. And we would provide an executive summary at the beginning of that report that summarizes all that stuff very concisely. So that work we're proposing to do for a total of $37,400, and we would estimate that it would be completed in 120 days.
I think Commissioner Jeff, as well as all of us here, we realize, the storms and hurricanes and water issues we've had, our water drainage system, stormwater runoff has always been a key issue in this town. Every time we get any flooding, of course, we get complaints. And, some of it we might be able to deal with, some of it's just preponderance of the amount of water you get, you just can't deal with it, the systems can't handle it. But at the same time, we know, I think the problem we've always had is looking at our stormwater runoff system. We just don't have the ability to take a picture, look at it the way we need to look at it. Like you said, if it's mapped out, we start having problems, easier to identify those problems and where they're at, and then what kind of plan we got to put together to resolve. A lot of these stormwater runoff is on private property, not on the public maintained property, which creates other issues. according to the state law, any water that runs naturally, the town does have some control over, without law liability. But still, gives us potential if we have those, that we may be able to fix some of these water issues we have within our communities. And I hope overall it gives the citizens of the town some confidence that we do have the ability to identify some of our stormwater runoff major issues and be able to map them out and know where they're at fairly quickly. So,
And can I make two other quick points?
go ahead, sir.
For one thing worth noting in that scope services item 1D, we address some potential surveying that could be done. And we wouldn't be doing the surveying, but we would incorporate any stormwater surveying that the town decides to get outside of this proposal. We would incorporate that into our mapping. And that could potentially be helpful to have a better understanding of which way is truly downhill and which way the stormwater actually goes. And then the other point I would make is separate from this proposal, Athena and I have also discussed an alternative rather than moving forward with this proposal, maybe doing it in phases. It sounds like the town could use, like you said, Mayor, a good map and a summary of all the infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure that's already existing. So rather doing this in one single project, maybe the town would rather move forward with just getting the mapping piece done and hold off on doing any sort of drainage study document and recommendations. Idea being, get the mapping together, see if that's what the town really needed, and decide from there whether a study is worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. Now, it has to be done in phases. I know I'm talking about a very huge, more complex issue. I think one of the biggest headaches we have in town has always been, where does the water go? It's coming out of certain communities, where is the main drainage that absorbs all the water that's running out of the town? That's something that's always baffling me, because I always want to know where it goes. You gotta know where it ends up, which way the water flows, and I think sometimes we have a big problem on deciding where the water actually goes to. Where does it disseminate? Where does it leave? Where does it get back to the river? And like you said, some of the drainage pipe we have in right now is old, deteriorating, and then some of the ditches that are drained on private property full of trash, junk, and trees. So it's going to be a drawn-out process that we would have to take in phases to do. Any comments from commissioners? Yeah, we look forward to it. Then we can work on it and work with Athena. So we appreciate your comments and look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah, and one last thing, just to make sure, Athena, did you want me to discuss the work plan, or we don't want to do that later?
I think the commissioners have looked at the work plan and they know the ordinances that we need to update, so that will chug along. Thanks a lot for your hard work last year, especially on 160D. You did a lot of work and you just need to be commended for it, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I've read a lot of 160D. Honestly, bless you.
No problem.
Tough statute in order to deal with. Very good.
Yeah, so if you guys don't think you'll need me from here, I'm happy to stay on, but if not, I'm gonna hop off.
We thank you, Jeff, and no more questions. You have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye.
Okay, number 7, Mr. Kenny Goodson.
Thank you. I have provided you with a kind of a detailed description of the services that I provide. Now for a long time. I don't remember when I started this, but I basically handled most of the accounting work for the town, payroll reports, all sorts of things like that. And basically, I'm charging the same hourly rate as I did last year. I figured maybe about an extra $1,000 in the total overall budget for the workload as it increases with each year and all. And I've enjoyed working with the town and would like to continue doing so.
Okay, thanks, Kenny. Like I say, you've been part of town for a long period of time. We appreciate you. Appreciate the hard work you do. Any questions for the commission?
I don't think Allison Bill is the day they serve is on the road, so.
Okay,
Is
we'll
there any
just,
specific questions?
what I think we'll just look at it. So. If we move on to 9, over get load. We have over on 9.
I am here. Sorry about that.
That's okay, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, and Miss Athena. I'm happy to be here with y'all today. Just to give you a little brief summary, I started back in 2006 when I met a young Miss Athena Williams at the shopping center in Leland, where the first office was, at least the first one that I knew. And since then, I've been your staff surveyor and honored to have that position. Working on many different projects, including the Riverwalk, which you all know is near and dear to my heart. And just like other folks that have been working on that, it's near and dear to everybody. It's something that the town of Belville can be really proud of. And then moving forward with phase 2, I'm looking forward to working with y'all again. And anything else that you may need as far as surveying. I would like to mention that we have a GIS capability that I would like to have you, Mr. Mayor, and Miss Athena Williams at least exchange some emails with our head of GIS, because what Jeff was mentioning, and with the drainage study assets, we have built GISs for small clients and large clients. We have a GIS inventory for the ports of North Carolina at the Wilmington port. And that is a database that's readily available to them that provides all the infrastructure that they have on their site that have been surveyed, photographed, and so forth. So that kind of capability is something that we had discussed a few years back, but now even with the additional work coming for the Riverwalk, I would think what we've done so far at the Riverwalk, and I still owe you an as-built survey for Riverwalk Phase 1, and I apologize for the delay in that, but all of that can be categorized into a GIS where you have access to that. It becomes basically a pyramid of information. And I will discuss that with our GIS folks and ask if you would like to inquire about that. I would certainly be happy to put you in the right spot to talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Athena and I will discuss that with you, and I want to thank you for the hard work you've done, especially working with DOT. Even DOT's bragging on what a great job you've done. You've done an outstanding job. You're very meticulous, Owen. We appreciate that. That saves us a lot of headaches in the future. And you've done an outstanding job. Like I said, we appreciate it. Look forward to working with you in the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Any comments from the commissioners? Like I say, if y'all seen Owen's work and the maps and how distinct he was, and even if I asked him to look at another couple of feet, he made that happen. And we tried to get everything that DOT want to turn over to the park system. done and done very well in the state. We're very appreciative how detailed the work was. And thank you,
Mr. Mayor, if I could, just one more thing.
sir.
For the Riverwalk Phase 2, and a bunch of months ago, I had asked your permission to group the 3 projects that we were working on, the NCDOT project Operation Condor, the multi-use path, and the Riverwalk as-built. And because your affirmative response to that, we have now a savings on existing survey needed for Phase 2. The original budget was 25,000, and the new budget cost to tie it all together with some additional survey is $8,400. So that decision that you made back months ago is going to help us reduce the cost for Phase 2 surveying because we have it. And it'll just take a little bit of an extra survey here and there to get this all together for the Phase 2 plan.
Okay, thank you. Saving dollars is always good,
Yes, sir.
so we appreciate that. Any other comment? Doesn't sound like.
But thank you so much, Owen.
We look forward to talking to you, and thanks for being on this evening and giving us up to date.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank
Night.
you, sir. Okay, next on the list, number 10 is Laura Coakley, the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Board. Laura, do I have you online?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. The floor is yours.
Okay, so we got together back in February and we are hoping to increase our budget to 11,000, which will include our 2 main events, which are Founder's Day, which I don't know if you noticed, but we are hoping to make that bigger with a children's section and obstacle courses and scavenger hunts for them. And then to also expand our Christmas tree lighting event in December. We do have new events we're hoping to schedule. Joe and Brenda are currently working on a fishing tournament and safety day for June. We do want to get started on our haunted trail. We're in talks with Joe Romano about having the seafood festival this year. And we definitely want to continue with the movies in the parks and possibly live streaming concerts once we figure out what we need to do for that. And we would also like an additional 4,000 for capital improvements to create a seating area for the food truck rodeos or movies or whatever event could be able to use that. And that's it.
Thank you, Laura. Appreciate the hard work you and the board does. Thank you for taking up the leadership role. Park is our main attraction in town, so everything we do, the events we can have is always great for our citizens of the town. Any comments from the commission? Well, looks like everybody's content. We appreciate you being on this evening, and we look forward to talking to you with the board in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Finishes our dollar contract people with our town people. Go ahead with that. Yes, Commissioner.
I'll go through each section here and kind of give you some ideas of what's pretty accurate, what's not pretty accurate. Under the property taxes, we estimate about $184,000 for this coming year. That's based upon our current tax rate. We hope to, in the next month or so, get the updated figures from Brunswick County where our actual property tax valuation will be for this coming year. So we get a more accurate figure on that, but that's what we're just approximate figure based upon last year, $184,000. Taxes, should hold pretty straight there at 12.5. These taxes are property taxes that you pay on your vehicle. And then usually we have a little bit of collection from prior year's taxes. So the total property taxes we're anticipating for this year is $197,500. On the next section is sales taxes. That's the largest revenue figure for the town. We get that money on a monthly basis. And through this coming year, this is just an estimate. This was an estimate. We should get close to about $760,000 in sales tax. We've only estimated about $715,000 for this coming year. They say that we should have about a 2% increase for 2022. So that number could go up a little bit more here. 715 could go up a little bit more as we get through the budget process. Be a little bit more accurate on what we've collected so far. Right, the next section is what we call intergovernmental rental fees. Most of these are from the state and federal grants. We're estimating our capital funds are right around $49,000 for this coming year. Anticipating public access grant, $91,500. Our P funds, $7,500 is the state. And anticipating one of those contributions this current fiscal year. Next year. So total those revenues are $549,500. Of course, that $307,500 for the ARP funds. There'll be some restrictions on how we can spend that, and what those restrictions will be. That diverse where we can use it basically for town meetings. Next section are some other taxes that we receive here. One is the annual distribution that we get. Estimated $9,600 for that. Utility franchise tax and sales tax that they will pay. We keep that on a quarterly basis. We're estimating $77,000. Permit fees and fees that we have charges for permits for various things. Fees and acquisition. Tax amendments. So we're just paying about $30,000 for the fees. And the big item here that we're working off of, agency board, we estimate about $300,000 for this coming year. Through February 28th, we've already collected $425,000 in this current fiscal year. We should have like one more quarterly distribution coming up here. So we could easily see probably maybe 500 grand before the end of the year. So we're anticipating at least $300,000. Down at the bottom, we've got some other income items, miscellaneous income, mixture of all sorts of little things that come through the things. We got some gate keys where we charge for the gate keys at the park. Got the farmer's market grants. So the total of other revenue down there is about $14,645. That brings our total revenue to $1,876,000 that we're anticipating for this coming year.
And notice on the voter commission note too, I was checking also today on this distribution of those federal funds. it will be split into two segments, but the problem we're having is at the federal level, how the money's gonna actually, what strength will we put on the spending or even projects that we would have to dedicate the money to. Originally, it's gonna come down to the state. State is gonna still distribute the money between the cities and towns. The state had the same problem everybody else had. Didn't know how to spend it. The federal government's guidance was not really good. So they're waiting now for the fine issue. And they're not really sure when that's gonna come down. Any dedicating the funds out of that money and what it has actually spent for, and what latitude the town and city will have. So waiting process. Just made some phone calls today, this morning. So seems like nobody knows right now. Any questions about what Kenny just went over?
Question, the tax rate, so the tax rates at 8%, 9 cents, and so that's unchanged from last year.
At this point, it's
Any, each cent you go up, it will be about 18,000.
I was looking at, we know, what we want to do here in town. I know we're gonna be discussing on other issues. We're gonna have to discuss the tax rates. And where it's appropriate time to consider. Do know what we want to do. I'll take some additional funds. Especially finish some of the projects and have people that can actually run some of these projects once we get them on board. So something to think about, and I think we'll also probably talk about how to discuss bar tax. It could be a future deal. You don't have, nobody likes taxes. You know, car tax we can levy quite from.
The maximum that you receive for Belville would be 60,000.
Yeah, that's considered, how many cars, 2,000? So you have 2,000 cars in the town, I think, it's about $60,000. Well, I think that's a rough estimate. There's more cars than that.
I had a question about that, though. Maybe you don't. But I know that a lot of times you go somewhere and you ask you where you live, you give zip code, pops up you. We've changed all our paperwork out.
It's all done through the tax records and.
Make sure we're getting our share.
They have a scroll and it sends us that scroll every year. If you look at all the addresses. Anywhere not. So it's checked every year. To make sure that
Just to make sure things are right. Any of the taxes we consider, like I say, you got to have a definite public hearing, see how the public feels about it. But we know for the town to grow, especially the way we want it to grow, if something's gonna have to happen. So I think we need to think about it really hard, look at the information we have here on tax increases as well as the car tax. You know, Leland has voted car tax fairly quick once they had the ability to do it. But tax is a tax. Our tax rate's at 9%, that is cheap. Matter of fact, our fire fee taxes is a lot more than our property taxes. So based on what we're doing in the future, our potential growth rate projects we want to do, we're gonna have to have a couple more people on our staff that can handle this. And you got to pay appropriate salary to get those individuals to do the kind of work that we need. Or something we're gonna have to look at. Something to think about, but I don't like paying taxes either. So, I'll leave it at that unless y'all got some other comments. By the time manager, where we need to go to now.
Our next discussion would be expenditures. You all are veterans and doing this budget now, so they won't be able to go through payment department. You don't have to get a half a year unless you see something. Discuss. Salary adjustment.
Where's our rate? We're paying.
We, commissioners are paid $225, paid $250.
So the amount of time the mayor's here, that's about 2 cents an hour.
I appreciate the call, but, looking at it now. I just, my salary stays the same. Think about it, think of the minor increase in what we do. Make a condition phone. Make a decision now. Definitely out here calls. There's definitely good in town, it's not about the money. Money. She has more money. Like being out here, like trying to help the thing and stay on top of things. Both got to do some good, some decisions I need to go. Help. Sometimes I'm reactionary, sometimes I get, I'm not always making the right decision the best way. That's also town staff. So, we move on with that. Let's say some questions from the commissioner or comments. Ken, if you are.
One thing I would mention is that, some tax and full-time planner or full-time planner, that's something that you have proposed to do. I'll give you some options in the salary schedule tab. As far as I give you a couple of different combinations. Might want to think about something that we would not use our consultants at all. We can still use them on special projects and on cases, but if you wanted to move over to full-time employees.
These are for what positions?
Just for example, if you wanted to hire a planner at 1,000, the total cost of that would be 61,000. Let's say you wanted to hire a finance officer, that's in slash engineer at 55 or economic development director at 55. Then the total cost for that position would be 81,000.
That's what
So look at that very hard because it is, we need to put the foundation into the town and build it in that we need to make the town go forward. I think that's crippled us in the past. Because, you know, we're strong as the staff members we have, the staff can't. They're not to a point where they can do it all. Some of this stuff is very specific. We've got that person that can, we must try to train when the projects get on board, where it's going after customers or developers or carrying on our engineering parts or whatever. Look at what our contract services are versus what we can get a full-time person for.
Well, I mean, we just look at the tree of organization we have here. It's in our vehicle. Like the director of Parks and Recreation is also public works.
Where I'm at, when you're building on those comments is what talent that we have.
No part of the discussion talking about the federal. I was trying to figure out. $6,000. Back 5,000. You know. A lot of pressure on the funds.
I'd rather put it there than live it.
Oh, we got, I said, we've got a lot of decisions to make this year. Especially on the budget side, where we're going to bring back to it all. Sooner or later, I think we, the public, our citizens, will have to understand. We want certain things in the town, we want the growth there, make self-support, keep our tax taxes.
Well,
That's a low rate.
I think there's a lot of people I've talked to and said they understand, they would understand. stuff. I think they're always concerned with what's the tax. Tax. See, especially.
Well, yeah, I know, son, I think if we do ask for tax increase, we'll make sure that the public has all the input.
Yes, that's just shelters that we have parked.
Well, and to your point, putting it in place for, here's the downtown plan, that is our, far, it's not 3069, like it's the hospital, but it's along those lines. You can demonstrate this is what you're investing in. This is not just for the status quo, this is for the next step.
Right. Right. And once they see it, you see it now. Is that good?
You know, they still have to realize that if we double our taxes, we're still low on double our taxes.
It wasn't getting crazy.
Yeah, but if we start there and we come back and raise them a little bit.
Yes, that's only come back.
It was like here.
We've got a lot to think about this year. I think this budget process and our next year budget is going to be crucial. We put the internal working parts we need to make our overall vision happen. And, it's going to cost some money. Just fact, we don't have a choice, but there's a great potential at the end of it to do this right. So, and like I say, we can't keep operating at the level we are using our parks. I mean, we got a certain amount of equipment we have to buy to maintain the park space. If we get ready to increase in size, we got one person basically taking care of it. And he don't even have all the tools he needs to make that happen. Another thing I think we can, I think the town will provide, I think we close some of this. We got one old vehicle for the town, and we need, if nothing else, we need a vehicle for the staff to utilize, because now they have to use the personal vehicle to do anything away from the town hall. Here's our truck. 2005 vehicle. You could get 500 good trucks. time we budget, get at least one or two vehicles, that we can probably get a pretty good price. We get one thing incorporated on the state bid, under the town, get a substantial reduction in the cost of the vehicle.
I think it's a good point there. We engage Adrian, the work that she's done. She can help us from her standpoint, put together thoughts and recommendations, building on your points about infrastructure that we need to consider and then associated costs, so that we have that perspective. That can help that.
We have to have it, we've neglected the infrastructure of our town for a while, but we've had, the last 2 years, we've been very occupied. Other issues that hopefully will go away here for too much longer. But we do have a lot to consider in this budget year. We tough decisions to make. I think everyone is going to make a hope is for the benefit of the citizens of our town, and for the town to exist. Even talking with people outside of our city and everything else, believe it or not, a lot of people even let us sign out there, they comments about it. I had one lady made a negative comment about our town, but later on that we chatted and she changed that. So, but people are starting to take notice of some of the things that we're doing already. What good is to have a vision plan that we've got, if we can't make it happen? So then people will start looking at you in a negative way. Even citizens of the town figure we're not doing anything, we're making promises that we're not keeping. That's the kind of, just downtown there, across the street, has been a major headache. Been an issue for quite a few years now, nothing's happened. Because, I'll say that, we get some bad decisions made. We don't make bad decisions. But we've got a lot of potential here. I think the motion has started, but we've got to keep our eyes on track. We've got to give a thing of support she needs on the staff to make the vision to go forward. But I don't think none of us sitting here, myself or the commissioners, have all the time that we can take to go out and do the work that has to be done. I'll be honest with you, I'm not intelligent enough to do some of this stuff. But that's hard for me to say. I have my limits like everybody else. I'm not an expert in some of these other fields. But we've got to have people that are experts if we want this to continue and move forward. I think y'all realize that too.
So just stay on task. Really.
Let's,
from here, would you like to just have a brief review at the don't want to decide on the donation tonight, but you have $6,000 set aside for them. You can decide that.
And is that, so donations then would be the first 2%?
It would be for anybody that approaches you
Right.
between now and June 30th. Or, you can increase the decrease at 6,000 as you see.
Yeah, I hope to look at these donations pretty serious because, you know, some towns don't believe that way to put anything back into the communities. I'm a one that believes that you need to put something back. One, it's good public relations. Two, you do help. I know we don't have the amount of money they're spending valuable to the town. But I don't think supporting some of these family assistance, running family assistance, they do great any of these programs that generate some of these technical skills that we need people to get hold of, that's basically what our money supports. And gives a person an opportunity that doesn't have the money to go get these grants, go to these classes, get a skill level where they can get out and be productive. I don't care, like she said, I think we help, people who are donation. That's the level of people that put back in the workforce. I don't think that's fair, that's close. And also, I think our standing in the community, look, sexually, too, that we are benefiting people. So we think about those donations, think about it in that prospect of it, rather than just spending money. But we're getting something out of that. I hope y'all consider that. Any other comments?
I would just echo that and share, I'm all for dividing that money between the two presenters tonight. So, that if our contracts need to be forward, that line, so,
Yeah, I think our contractors that we've had, especially control of them, you know, I think all of y'all heard this, you know, we have the hurricanes, the tornadoes, everything that's happened. Matter of fact, I hear a lot of people out of Leland bragging on us for the quick response we had when the tornadoes hit our community. That's a good sign. They're talking about how quick the town of Belville moved and our bigger sister city did. So it shows our constant, we call, request our contractors, they're there. Very, good. What it does, makes things happen in a hurry. Keep that relationship, and that's probably one of the best benefits this town, our service that we've been able to give citizens of this town. That's our quick response to disasters and how we move on.
Unfortunately, that's something that we're gonna have a continued need for, of course.
Yes.
You know, whether it's hurricanes that we know are coming, or there's stuff that is less predictable, such as tornadoes or whatever it's gonna be, so that was.
Cut that out of the budget once before that.
Yes. Without having known that, I can agree that, yeah, it probably was.
Don't pick up trucks with chainsaws.
Yeah, and how quick the response is key. Yeah, especially to those that need that response. As far as donations go, I mean, it might even be worth considering, especially if we do get other requests, if we even want to consider increasing our donation budget for the coming year, partially considering the fact that I would say we almost have, you know, without looking back right now at this past year's budget and where we are, but we saw a lot of extra revenue coming this year from ABC store sales that we weren't counting on. Where, you know, frankly, our community, they were, whether it was our townspeople or surrounding, out spending in our ABC stores and bringing revenue to our town, so that's the way we get a little bit of that back.
Athena, historically, how much have we provided in donations to those two groups?
It has varied, you know, last year because of COVID, it's about 500 for each. But in previous years, you've done anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000.
I think I was looking for the also here at schools.
Yes, community.
I'm, you know, I'm gonna go shop tie dye. I'm okay with donations. Just like thinking about what we need. Making sure. Just we have our sister city over there just waiting for us to do something. So.
We're gonna have to run long, but, you know, that process could be drawn out till the signing of the contract, which would be June the 30th. Not a set deal. Have another meeting coming up where they'll take a vote, actually solidifying the contract. So,
And those are things that when guidance comes down from the ARP funds, these organizations are nonprofits, it could be that we may
they ever how they direct those funds, some of those allocations, we can probably maybe direct it, that's what we have to use it for anyway.
As far as the contracts, only have concern.
Yeah, I know which one,
You know which one it is. Like 2 years now.
I do have the proposal. It's another. That's this.
I think that's one we need to look at. Population law. We, I think it's important that we do main, PIOs now for towns and other organizations are pretty important.
I absolutely agree. The only thing I've seen is last one. All, everybody has a vision, all the media jumps on. It's just good for them to show that. So there's a lot of effort. Else I've seen.
We have full-time PIO.
Well, in general, you have staff that wear many hats, maybe. I'm to look for a staff member, a new staff member that can wear that hat as well as some of the other ones that they can share.
Something to look at, they would be a good person, on the talent.
A lot of those things, I mean, I think most of them.
Whoever fill one or two positions. Now, it's like a person in a man's past. We're not gonna have. We're gonna hire one and wear. South. It be possible. See. I think y'all right to it.
And are you disappointed? You'd like us to like our books, so I'm thinking.
No comment. All in
Oh,
favor?
aye.
Aye. All opposed? So, thank you.